Hey everybody, all right. So I've been gone for about a week, and took a road trip up through. Started in San Diego, obviously. Went up through Sacramento, got to Redding. Spent a day in Bend, Oregon. Absolutely beautiful place. Well, I think it's only nice there for like 3 months a year, um, maybe four or whatever. But absolutely beautiful place. If you ever been to Bend, go there. Great beer. One of the cleanest cities I've ever been to. People were really nice. Um, and then went to Portland, which is pretty much the purge about a week before the movie starts. And maybe it blends into part of the movie, but absolutely I call it crazy town. It's absolutely the craziest city that I've ever been to. Um, some of the stuff I'll just keep offline. It's just a weird city. I wouldn't want to live there. They have great beer, has everything going for it, but it is straight up crazy town. Like, no joke. Never been to Washington State, so we literally drove across the bridge, and I stepped foot in Washington to say that I've been there, and then we headed back down the coast, all the way from pretty much the Washington Oregon border, all the way down back to San Diego. So we're back. I was keeping a little bit of a view on my portfolio during that time. Last week we had one really good day, and then just kind of the rest is a little bit of malaise, a mixed bag here and there. But we're back on the horse today, and so we'll take a look at some things that I had noticed. So we'll go into our portfolio, and one thing that annoyed me to death, we'll talk about it a little bit, was I had Hufflin, or as my wife corrected me, Houghton Mifflin stock. I'm sure that's the correct pronunciation. I wasn't really in love with it, so I knew it was a really good stock, but didn't really hold my interest as much as other things. So I put in a limit order to sell it. I think it was like 275, whatever, and it finally hit that, sold, which is good news. And then it went up 70% in one day. And it was the only stock that day. If you go back and look at Houghton Mifflin, you'll take a look and you'll see that day. It was last week. Went up 70%. Everything else was pretty much dead, flat, nothing moving. And Houghton Mifflin basically came out with a teacher tool, and it went up 70%. So I got that money sold, but at the same time, I missed out on 70%. So what are you going to do? You get one stock that goes up 70%, and it happens to be the day that you have a limit sell in. So look, it's not meant to be. If God's up there with his little marionette, strings, you know what? Fine, I missed it, whatever. It'd be nice to know, I would have canceled that order, made 70%, and then I would have sold it. That would have been nice, but it didn't happen that way. Overall today in the market, relatively flat. I looked at the Dow, and it was down, and then made a recovery to go positive a little bit. Our stocks don't always follow the Dow. And then also there's the tech sector, which a lot of people are investing in right now, just because, everybody's focusing on remote work and all this fun stuff, trying to catch up with Netflix. But I did hear, and I was going into my physical therapy appointment today, that they were talking about tech stocks, and they're basically their honeymoon's going to be over pretty soon. And the guy they were talking to, the first segment that he went into was travel and leisure, which is basically a big segment of what we have, because it took a big hit and it's baked into Americana. I mean, it's literally what I did this past week. Going from town to town. We didn't even have a destination each day necessarily. We'll stay in a place, and we left, and everything, was relatively open. And then all of a sudden, while we're gone, our wonderful mayor, what they call him, Führer Newsom, basically decides to go crazy and shuts everything down. So we're driving back down, and we literally had to Google the county restrictions to see kind of where, what we're going to have for dinner that night, or that type of thing. So with that being said, relatively flat for the most part. We had a couple exceptions. Braemar Resorts went down 9%. We'll take a look at that shortly. And they are a casino operator. GNC, which is my flyer, we'll see. I don't even know what's going to happen with that. That went down 10, but to be honest, at this point, I don't really care too much. AVCT, that is our Just got to remind myself which one this one was. I want to say it was the tech company? Let's take a look here. Yeah, it's a tech company. So they do IT solutions, and basically they're going to take advantage of having people work remotely. So basically a cloud tech company. That went up 7%. And then of the ones that we don't own, these are the ones we root for going down. Let's take a look here. No big ones. Last week, all the cruise lines went down a bunch, and I noticed that in my upside rankings. Texas Hospitality went down 8%. Century Casinos went up 5, almost 6%. Noblex went up 13.6%, which is crazy because I don't think in the time that I've watched it, it's ever gone up 13.6%. And is there anything else? No, it's kind of a mixed bag. Let's see. This is the, Build-A-Bear company. That one down 7%. That one actually had been doing really good for a while, so it's weird that it has an off day. And then Hufflin Mifflin went down 16%, so I guess it went up 70 and it has room to go down. So, sucks to be you. All right. Anyway, I didn't really mean that. I don't even know what I'm talking about. All right. So with that being said, we were just down 1% today. It's minor. It's within a standard deviation for the most part. And it seems like most days, if we're down like this amount, the after hours is up a little bit. So nothing really to worry about. We're looking long term. Again, our goal is to keep this cost basis down. And then obviously over the long term, we'll see the gain come, but really the cost basis is our main driver. So I looked at this today, and basically we have winners and losers. We have a bunch of ones in the 100s that seems to be doing really good. And then we have a couple that are just coming back. We have Two Harbors, which is a REIT, and Velocity, who do mortgage financing, is coming back. Yuko's been about 7%, so that one's been in the black for a while, which is good. So I'm looking at the ones in the red, and the idea there is that, we're going to lump them into one where they'll go in the black, and we might sell them when they go in the black. And we have a couple for those, or we might decide to buy some low, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I looked at Red Robin Group, and they're down 36%, and they're getting hit by the uncertainty over closures and like here in California, in-person dining, and they're in malls, so they're really not built you're sitting in booths, and you have like iPad ordering systems, and they're not built to be sitting outside. So they took a hit. They're down 36%. I bought it at 12. They're at 7.6, and I said, hey, that's what we want to take a look at. So we put in a limit order sell or a buy today at 750. Currently have 100 shares right here, so I'll just buy 135, and if we get it, we'll add another 1,000, which should dramatically drop our overall cost basis, and it gives us a 5-point upside on that. From there, we also looked at Red Rock Resorts, which is the casino one I sold recently, and if we looked at that one, let's take a look at Red Rock Resorts. We'll unhide the ones that we don't have any holdings in. And I sold it at $12.55, bought it at $9.50 before I had it. And we put in a buy at $10. So we basically bought it at $9.50, sold it at $12. We're going to buy it again at $10 and get a nice little position right there. So those are two great ones we feel really good about, so we'll leave those alone for the time being. We're not really want to do anything else. We don't want to go overboard. GNC, we have a cost. We have a limit sell if it hits 50 cents again, which it may or may not. We'll see. And then XAN, which is, let's take a look at XAN. All right, come on, trackpad. All right, XAN. All right, this is the commercial, commercial mortgage loan, bonds, that type of thing. And all right, so that one we're just going to leave alone. We're going to have a limit sell in. If it gets back up to, it's at 238. Once the segments start to recover a little bit, if it goes back up, when it goes back up to 322, we'll sell that and free up about $4,000. But for right now, we're doing pretty good. We're just going to leave it as is. Basically, our current holdings are on pace for 292 because we sold a couple, partially to free up margin lately. And then our limit orders for Red Robin Group and Red Rock Resorts, our two reds, give us another 8,000. So we're on pace for about 300,000. All right. So with that being said, pre-market trading, just the main. I like this because it gives a main headline. They're talking about the debt and then stocks that COVID hit. I think the only one that was on here earlier, they had Norwegian Cruise Lines, but we don't have any holdings in that, so we're not there anymore. So relatively flat. This was a little positive before, so we'll see what happens. And again, these are futures for 3 months from now. So I want to say they're like for September 20th, but they give us a sentiment on the market. So I'm not really sure how they measure these. This one's down 10. Let's see if that changes on a reload. Did that reload? All right, so 10 down, whereas this one was up 102. So we'll see. Again, we'll check it later. We never look at it this early in the day. It's basically 2 o'clock here in California. So we'll take a look and see what happens. Again, as we go in tomorrow, let's see. Let's do that. All right, so as we go in tomorrow, if the market goes down, we have 2 good buys that we'll execute. And if the market goes up, then we have 1 sell. And plus, we like taking gains if we're going to do that as well. So, but beyond that, nothing really happening right now. We'll see what happens. Again, the macro news that nobody's talking about is, early on, everybody. It's interesting. There were 2. If you have to go back and, it's really easy to forget, kind of what people are talking about now as far as how it relates to before. So in the beginning of all this COVID stuff, there were 2 points that are really salient. Number one is, and I want to show you guys something here. So let's do, number one, you ever notice they'll talk about cases and cases going up and cases increase or all this different things, but they never talk about deaths. You ever notice they stopped talking about deaths? They stopped talking about hospital capacity. Like that was a big thing when we first started. And initially, like that was the reason we shut down when they talked about flattening the curve. People said, what do you mean flattening the curve? And the whole idea was that there's basically this line, hospital capacity line, and we're going to take a look at that in a second. We don't want to go over that because it'll overwhelm our hospitals. And that was the reason why we took a quote 2-week pause. Remember back in March, it was a 2-week pause, 15 days to beat Corona, right? That's kind of what they talked about back then. Well, it's been 4 months right now, and they don't talk about hospitalizations. They don't talk about deaths. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Now, on top of that, the other thing that I didn't realize, and somebody reminded me of this, it was either yesterday or earlier today, was the definition of a case. Right now, it's if you take a test for COVID, that counts as a case. When we first started, they didn't count cases as that way. They counted a case as you going to the hospital and them diagnosing you with COVID. That was a case, and they're not doing that anymore. Now, if you get a Q-tip that goes the wrong way, then that's a case. And we're trying to test as many people. So it's like, from a statistical standpoint, you really don't want to focus on that because the person running the test has the ability to increase the findings by doubling or tripling the amount of tests. And that really makes the statistics about as valid as adopting an aluminum bat and allowing steroids in baseball. Yeah, sure. The home run record was 61 before, and it's 70 now in a year. But you know what? If you allow aluminum bats and steroids, the home run record is going to be 200. But there's going to be a big asterisk by it because we know that you're not comparing 2 same things. You're comparing things that are totally different. And so you got to look at that right now. And the good news is, as long as these people are trying to deceive you, and they're in the media, I used to be in the media, then just understand that there's a reckoning. It will come around where they can't hold up the world. It's not Atlas. They can't hold up the world forever. Eventually, they're going to, their ability to hold this narrative is going to go away. So last night, I was looking at the Union Tribune here in San Diego, and it's basically uniontrib.com or San Diego Union Tribune, whatever. But they actually have a really good breakdown of statistics. Unlike, I mean, this is way better than even the CDC, in my opinion. So they'll talk about overall confirmed cases, right? And they break down everything. And I want to show this to you, even if you don't live in San Diego. It just gives you a sense, because I think this is probably, you're going to see similar trends across the country. So we have 3 million people in San Diego, right? I mean, it's a big city, right? And in 4 or 5 months, we've gotten only 24,000 confirmed cases. Now, if you're not statistically minded, let's just show you exactly how many people that is. 3 million. That means 0.01. If you have 1,000 people in a room, which is, they're not supposed to have that now, 7 of them will have coronavirus. If you have 100 people in the room, it's not even certain that 1 of them will have coronavirus. I mean, that's in 4 months with this tremendously communicable disease, right? Contagious disease. So we've tested 568 people from the day before. In San Diego County, we've had 478 deaths. So let's do the math again. You have 0.016 people, which, to give you an idea, if you filled up a basketball arena, 20,000 people, let's say an NBA game, it was packed, it was Kobe's last day, the arena's packed, you would have 3 people if all the people in that arena had COVID. So let's say we had all these people right here. If they were sitting, if they were all in the basketball arena, you would have 3 people die. I mean, think about that. The line to the men's room or the women's room is longer than the amount of people dying. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So, how many people died yesterday? 0. So I read this and I'm pissed. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. No one died. They're closing down businesses. You can't eat in a restaurant. You can't go to a brewery. You can't go to a winery. I mean, gosh, they probably are checking dogs that are walking down the street. Who knows? I mean, they're probably not doing that. But no one died. Think about that. What are you waiting for? I mean, literally, you have the same amount of people die from coronavirus as you did last year. Nobody. I mean, it's crazy. So, with that being said, they have a cumulative line of cases, and they have new cases. You notice how the new cases is really low? They're testing a lot, and the new cases are low. New cases by day, and these are just people that are testing positive, whether or not they have symptoms. So if you show up at a hospital in urgent care, they're going to run a test on you, and they're getting a good sense on who has COVID, even though there is a false positive or a false negative, and they're not always accurate. But let's just say they are. 568. Daily testing is, the trend line is going up. They're testing on a ton of people, but the total cases is flat. Total flat. Rolling positive, it went up for a little bit. It went up from all of 2.5%, which is ridiculous. It's probably the lowest percent of any big city in the country, up to 6%, and then it's on its way down again, right? That's just for positive tests. Doesn't mean even they have symptoms. They may not have even known, that they had coronavirus. Hospitalizations, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, that's not a whole lot. Cases that require hospitalizations. This is cumulative, so the people in the hospital here are not in the hospital anymore. So anyway, this one's kind of a worthless chart, to be honest. All right, daily hospital census. Total number of hospital beds county-wide. We have a capacity of over 6,000, basically 6,125 beds. You know how many are used by Corona? 500. 1/12. That means if you have 120 hospital beds in the hospital, only 1 of them is being used by COVID. And then the total beds in use are 4,317. I mean, they're having trouble filling beds. They need the money. They're still running liposuctions. They're still running tummy tucks. They're still running elective surgeries. I mean, they're nowhere near having a problem. So remember we talked about flattening the curve. The whole idea of flattening the curve was you didn't want this line to go above this line because that's when all hell breaks loose, right? Well, it's nowhere near it. We're not anywhere near it. It's a joke. So deaths by day, they had 3 the prior day in the whole county, and they had 0 yesterday. So look at the ages, and we're going to break this down. So check this out. So first of all, this is San Diego County, for those who aren't familiar with it. Everybody that's dying is in this one area of the county. You want to shut down an area, shut down this area. But I don't know why you're going to shut down Carlsbad and Oceanside up here. I mean, that's crazy. All right. Deaths. This is interesting. So they break down death, age, gender, race, ethnicity, the part of the county, and then underlying medical conditions. Look at this. Pretty much everybody here has an underlying health condition. And they had 2 exceptions here. A guy that's 25 and a guy that's 54. But if you remember, if you were reading the news yesterday in Florida, they had a guy who was in his 20s die, and they marked him as COVID. And the medical director in Orlando said that he died in a motorcycle crash. When they said, well, why is he marked as COVID? He goes, well, COVID might have made him crash. Like, come on, you got to be kidding me. So, but all these are yeses. Like, it's a very clear, like, trend that's going on. Age distribution. They're testing a whole bunch of young people. And then nobody's hospitalized. The young people aren't hospitalized. And if you're under 30, check this out. If you're under 50, right? This is not hard math. 15 plus 4 plus 3. You have 22 people in a county of, yes, you guessed it, 3 million. That number is just so low, I can't even put a comprehension on it. So let's do it this way. Let's say this is the death rate in San Diego County. And this is probably the death rate where you live too. All right. So we're going to add up all these cases. 1699 plus 714. We have 16,254. 22 divided by 16,254. This is the death rate if you're under 50 in San Diego County. It's 1 out of 1,000. So if you get 1,000 people that have COVID, 999 of them are going to make it. One's not. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's not even considering whether they have diabetes or they weigh 900 pounds or something like that. But it's like, that's kind of where they're at. But again, if you're up at 80, then yes, it's a little bit of a problem because it's like 1 out of every 3 people. So racial breakdown, it's not good for the Hispanics. Whites are right behind them. I guess if you're American Indian, you're doing pretty good. I don't know, whatever. There's a whole lot of unknowns. But anyway, again, cases, San Diego's a big city, so this one doesn't really mean a whole lot. And then zip codes, you guys don't care. Cases per 10,000 residents. They're right along the border. So I'm guessing there's probably a whole bunch of stuff down there as well. But if you live way up here, these people are shut down the very same way that these people are shut down. So why am I talking about that? Well, mainly because you have all these shutdown orders that are based on really bad science. And so if you're looking at stocks and you say, okay, well, we want to get stocks that are ready for the comeback, trust me, these numbers are going to come back and they're going to come back in force. So keep your strategy in place, and we're going to see a big payoff. I don't know how quickly it's going to come, but it's going to be there. Stay patient and be ready. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.